They tryna turn Trenton into Baby Flint. Been signs by depression on the billboards ever since. 100 years ago we was lynched. Now they use germ warfare to kill us. I'm convinced, got the evidence. I look around and it's evident. Then go down to City Hall and see so much negligence. Real art is intelligent. A true artist sends messages that speak to your intelligence. They fought and died so I can do my thing. Not to get drunk and high or join no game. I will not let none of you die in vain. For my people I bang, bang, bang. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. They say post-traumatic slavery disorder's fake, but I just tell them all to wake up. Everything we went through, what a way down a rape, bro. Isn't our genetic makeup. So I am my ancestors from block to block. Let's build like it's Tetris. We must unite, link up like a necklace. They fought and died and we disrespected. So I come to correct it. The legacy they left I protected. We only think about self and neglected. You're African but yet you rejected. No, my ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. I do. I go.
All right. Welcome back to another edition of New Freedom Exchange, a cultural expression for social dignity and community empowerment, community development empowerment. I'm your host, Brother Deen, here with my co-hosts.
Sister Marsha, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, and myself, Brother Bilal. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Peace and blessings. How's everyone doing?
Peace and blessings, absolutely. Doing good, man. How y'all doing?
Good. Today was a relaxing day for me. I had a lot to do, but it was just like a chill day. So alhamdulillah for that, because I haven't had one of those in a while. Just running here, there, everywhere. We had a United Colleen here in Jersey.
Oh, I missed it. Oh, no.
And you know what? We didn't even get to record it because I had it going from my phone, and at first I didn't know how to do it, and then we were already into it, but it was really good. Everything was super organized, flowed really well. So alhamdulillah for that. But we'll catch it on the next go round.
Excellent. Yeah, I was in motion, leaving the Jabbat over there, leaving his city, coming back into the west side. Right. But yeah, that's good, man. How you feeling, Bilal?
Feeling good. Feeling great. I think that today was nice weather. It's warm, not that hot, but it definitely was warm. But definitely appreciative of the fact that we're here. We're back on the show. Alhamdulillah. Allah is merciful. Creator is merciful, and I think we have a great lineup today and tomorrow. Actually, a double whammy. Actually, as we talk about our new wellness, sense of wellness. You know what I'm saying, and how important wellness is. So,
excellent. Before we get started with our guest today, our special guest today, we just want to give our listeners and our viewers another reminder of our Patreon platform, or NFX Daily. We're looking to produce daily content on there, so we welcome you all to join us on that. Get your membership, like you said, or we've said before, whatever you could contribute. We do have a couple, actually about 3 or 4 different categories you can select from. But we also have our Bilal Trust, as we mentioned before, which is our heritage fund, preserving our culture and our legacy, a history of Muslims in America, especially among the African American. So you can contribute as little as $1 or whatever Cash App or what's that PayPal would take, up to however much you want to give. And we have our first publication that we produce on there for our social justice series. So you're welcome to check that out. Also, don't forget, guys, we are still in New Africa August, man. They've been rocking every day.
Absolutely.
Beautiful content. Yeah.
Tonight is Dr. Boyce Watkins tonight. Yes, Dr. Boyce on right now as we speak.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they're rolling over there. And the whole purpose is, as we've been sharing it in conjunction, is to, just like we have the month of African American History Month in February, we designated August as New Africa Month, focusing on developing our future. So check that out if you haven't yet. They have the replays available. Get them now, because I heard afterwards they might be for a little price. So you might want to jump on it now. You can still register at newafricaaugust.com. So I think that's all announcements I have before we jump right in.
Let's jump right in there, huh? Marsha, got anything for us?
No, good. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Good. All right. So today we are, our special guest is the Keto Coach.
The Keto Coach. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the Keto Coach. So the Keto Coach for the Qasim Rashad is 58 years old. He's a former diabetic. Initially tried veganism for 2 years to address his disease. He said, I then went to a low-carb, high-fat diet, which ultimately sent my diabetes into remission. My choices, or food choices, were feeding my disease and crippling me as a result. As a Muslim, I maintain an alcohol-free halal diet, but that was just too widespread a concept, as I just simply progressed from low levels of diabetic hormonal dysfunction to out-of-control diabetes. Diabetes is a hormonal dysfunction caused by a high-carb diet. Early in 2018, I had heard of a community of doctors who were reversing diabetes through low-carb dieting. I then began to see the trend of intermittent fasting being used in nutrition circles as a tool to address diabetes, cancer, ADD, and even executives in Silicon Valley used it to get a cerebral edge over competition. In 2019, I began eating a low-carb diet, and I noticed my very high glucose readings were going down rapidly. I then began to practice of intermittent fasting, and so the combination of the two brought my sugar to normal ranges. Within 3 months, my sugar went from dangerously high to normal. My doctor was amazed, but reluctantly said I no longer had to take insulin or metformin. Although I started this journey for one specific reason, the other side effects have been tremendous. For one, I started at 230 pounds, and I am now 172 pounds. My blood pressure, triglycerides, and bad LDLs have all come into the normal range. We have lost so many friends and family to this horrible yet preventable disease. I've become a champion for low-carb, high-fat diet, or what many call keto. I believe it will save our community. From losing many more if we adopt this way of eating.
Excellent. So let's bring him on. That's our dear brother, Qasim Rashad. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome.
Alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah. How you doing, Mujahid? I've known Mujahid since he was dang near a baby.
I was about to spill the beans, just like we had the brother on yesterday, young brother Bakr Deen, which you also know his family. Yeah, brother Shahid. He knew me when I was a young gunner or a young buck.
Bakr Deen's older than you?
No. I got him by a few years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So welcome to New Freedom Exchange.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
For our viewers, he's also a radio personality. You know, he got some experience also, you know, on the airways. So we look up to him as well in some of his work that he's done on WRD with Islam Today and so forth and so on. So, but we're here today talking about keto and what's that about and your transformation and how we as a community and when I did some of the research of diabetes, man, the numbers are astronomical, man, for African American community, man. Almost double, almost 3 times in certain categories. So speak to that to us.
One out of 3 people are afflicted with diabetes, and I just, was pretty much in a rabbit hole trying to figure out how to get out of it. I knew it was an eating disorder. First of all, diabetes is a hormonal disorder where you become insulin resistant. And so you tend to gain all this weight, but at the same time, your glucose levels go so high that it really impacts you on multiple levels. And when people die as a result of diabetes, they always pronounce they died as complications of diabetes, because the disease is so pervasive. It attacks your retina, retina neuropathy, it attacks your kidneys, it attacks your heart, your liver, your spleen, everything. And you try to treat it in so many different ways, but you're only stopgap measuring any treatment that you're doing. And so I went down the rabbit hole of veganism. I was a staunch, hardcore vegan. And when you practice veganism, if you're culturally a vegan and you are a strict vegan, you will notice, which I did, moderate success in my numbers. I was able to get some control of my diabetes. Well, once I found out that McDonald's fries was fried in vegetable oil, I was supersized twice a day. So it was just too widespread or too wide of a birth. And then the onset of vegan soul food, vegan cornbread, vegan all kinds of stuff. And so that just led me back to my original status of having high glucose numbers and being chronically sick and having all these different ailments. So I started studying the low carb diet because there's a community of doctors that are out there that are nephrologists, kidney doctors, diabetic doctors, general practitioners, and they figured out through diet that you can control your diabetes. One of the things that they first came to them, bariatric surgeons asked them, can you help shrink the fatty liver in our patients before we do the bariatric surgery? Because that's one of the things that get in the way. And so they said, sure, you can fast the person, extremely for several days, and you can reduce their carbohydrate intake. And what they found out is that not only did it reduce the fatty liver, but it also brought the glucose numbers into range. And several of the patients then said, well, what if we stayed in this state of intermittent fasting and eating low carb? Well, that's the miracle of low carb dieting. I went from 230 pounds to 172 pounds in a matter of 4 or 5 months, strictly watching what I was eating. But I think what's great about this particular way of eating, and I don't like to use the term keto because it's kind of got like a faddish diet approach and everybody's trying it, intermittent fasting, everybody's trying it, but it's the combination. And what I found out was more important is what is just as important is not, what you eat is important, when you're eating, how much you're eating, but when you're eating is very important because we've been told one thing on the food chart: we should eat a high carb, low fat diet. And that's the opposite. It's actually, we should be eating a high fat, low carb diet. And what you find is that you replace carbohydrate as your energy source and fat as an energy source, and my energy went through the roof. I wasn't working out, although I do like to get outdoors and things like that, but the energy compelled me to go out. So now I'm running 3-4 miles a day and doing things like that. But I think that the low carb diet, and when I say with this community of doctors, so I started attending online conventions and seminars and so on. And what I was finding in this community of doctors, there may be one African-American doctor that's prominent in the low carb community of physicians, but most of them are not African-American or Black. Most of the people who attend these conventions, and I'm seeing whole families of clumps, white folks that the whole family may have weighed 2,000 pounds each, and they're all standing up there with these big size 60 pants that the whole family can get in now, but one of them wore. And so I don't see our people gravitating towards this low carb diet that is probably more natural for you than a high carbohydrate diet. And it takes you about, I didn't develop diabetes till I was 50. So I was marching along eating a high carb diet for at least 40, 45 years till it caught up to me. And so a lot of people say when I was young, I could eat whatever I wanted, and you can pretty much. But studies have shown that even in mice who have been given a high carbohydrate diet, it takes them about 2 years before the onset of diabetes. But their metabolism is like 2-3 times higher than us. But if you feed them strictly a high carbohydrate diet, even mice will develop diabetes after a given time. Your pets, if you constantly feeding them grains and carbohydrates, pets are now getting diabetes as well. And so the onset of diabetes is brought on by this, but it can be controlled. You know, and I think Bilal mentioned something that I read in my bio. When I went to my doctor and my A1C was 14. I don't know if you know, a normal A1C is 5,
Right.
5, 6. Mine was 14. A normal glucose is between 80 and 100. My daily glucose was 300 to 400. So I was really on the path to self-destruction. And so we saw those numbers. My doctor was truly amazed. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, you know, you call it keto. I'm doing a low carb, high fat diet, and I'm exercising, I'm incorporating, and I'm doing a combination of intermittent fasting, which helps regulate the hormones, which help regulate the carb intake and your glucose numbers." And he said, "Wow, that's wonderful. Keep it up. You know, and you don't have to take insulin, but I'm still going to write you a prescription for it, just in case you relapse." You know, and I was up to 25 daily units of insulin and 1,000 milligrams of metformin. And again, for people who take those meds, know that's an awful lot of medication. And it's only masking the disease. To me, it makes it worse. You know, I think one nephrologist, Dr. Jason Fung, who's a nephrologist out of Canada, he said, giving my patients insulin was just me holding their hands and watching them die slowly, you know, because the disease is that progressive. And if you don't get a hold of your diet, and, you know, I was given, when I was first diagnosed as pre-diabetic, they sent me to nutrition classes. And so in the nutrition classes, the nutritionists will give you some of the wildest information, like it's okay to eat 1 slice of pizza. Like, who do you know can eat 1 slice of pizza?
Right.
It's okay to eat a scoop of ice cream. But would you tell a crackhead, you know, it's okay to smoke a little bit of cocaine or alcohol and take a shot of Henny? You know, it's terrible advice. But most of these doctors will tell you that they've gone to medical school for an aggregate of maybe 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. And they may have taken one class, if any, on nutrition. So they don't know anything about nutrition. And a lot of the nutritionists have been given this FDA pyramid where you see at the top is protein and fat, and at the bottom, as it gets wider, is all of these carbohydrates. And it's supposed to come out 2020, every 10 years or every 5 years, they come out with a new FDA guideline. Right now, it's being held up because a lot of the a lot of these doctors are fighting it, saying you cannot march this high carb diet out to people without at least giving them the alternative to a low carb diet. And it's really, you know, you're telling kids to eat Fruit Loops and cornflakes, and you're giving them the information that it's fortified with 8 essential vitamins, and it's chock full of sugar and carbs. And it's literally addicting these kids. If you want to know if your child is addicted to sugar, just marching down the candy aisle and see how he goes back for all this stuff in the supermarket. You know, sugar is one of the most highly addictive substances on the planet. More addictive and more destructive than cocaine. Studies have shown it. And when I say that, people are like, you gotta be kidding. Yes, they've given rats the option of, they've introduced cocaine into a controlled situation with rats. The rats go bonkers for the cocaine. Then they introduce sugar. The rats leave the cocaine and strictly consume the sugar until they develop diabetes. You know, and drug addiction is a terrible disease. but diabetes has gotten drug addiction by far beat. You know, and I don't know if it's easier to kick, but I know I went through 30 or 40 days of trying to kick my sugar addiction, and it was traumatic. I mean, I didn't get dry heaves and fall out and had to be restrained, but at the same time, I wasn't normal. And so we have to get our children and our people, first of all, to recognize sugar as a poisonous substance, carbohydrates as destructive substances. I mean, whole grains and whole wheats and glutens and so on and so forth. Science is now showing that this stuff is really doing significant damage to our systems. And so now it even correlates back to, do you know what the term we know what type 1 and type 2 diabetes is.
Right.
There's a new term called type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is the buildup of plaque in the brainstem as a result of a high carbohydrate diet. And if you go on a low carb diet, you're not going to cure Alzheimer's, but you may make it better. Just like if you've blown your kidney out because you have diabetes as a result of a high carbohydrate diet, you won't regenerate your kidney, but life. And I know people who have kidney disorders who went on a low carb diet, and their prognosis and their outlook improved significantly as they removed the carbohydrates from their diets.
Okay. So I have a question. Talk to us a little bit about how important meal prep is in making the switch to your eating habits, because I don't want to approach it as going on a keto diet, right? You even mentioned that you don't want to you don't even want to mention it as keto, right? It's just high fat, low carb. But how important is meal prep in that whole process? Because I've tried keto. I felt like it was really meat heavy. Like I tried to get the whole almond flour and make pancakes. That was a fail. That was an absolute fail. I was like, this is nasty. But I think meal prep is super important, and I know for me that is one of the pieces that I find challenging. Like I can do intermittent fasting. I've done it. It works wonders.
Yes.
I've been vegetarian. Haven't done veganism. I love my cheese. Vegan cheese just don't taste the same. So just be patient with me. But let's talk about how important meal prep is when you're making this lifestyle change.
Meal prep is so important. It's very critical. There are two things, like not only what you're eating, but when you're eating. And also, I guess when you go on these sort of diets, like when I went into the vegan diet, I went to the pantry and I eradicated all of the dairy, the milk, the eggs, all of that stuff had to go. And so meal prep gets you in line with the psychology of low carb eating. And so it's not a diet for everyone, although I believe it is. But I know people who, like my daughter says, Dad, I can't eat red meat. I just can't get it down my esophagus. I can't swallow it. So she's very opposed to it. Although it is the combination for keto is it's 70% fat, 25% protein, and 5% carbs. And so you're going to get carbs in anything that you eat. And so I choose vegetables as my source of carbs, of low carbs. So preparing the meal, first eradicating whatever it is, getting all of the Fruit Loops, the cornflakes, the bread, the glutens, all of that out of the house, and then finding, like I have Pizza Tuesdays. And so you can either get a keto pizza, which, I order from a halal place in Philly called In and Out, and I just suck the cheese and the sauce and the pepperonis right off of there and toss the bread in the trash. But I also I I'm a carnivore, and there's much debate and argument for carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is the extreme of the keto diet, meaning that they don't even do the fat part. They don't do the carb. They just sitting down eating a big old fat steak, and their numbers are showing that they're doing quite well. But I find that with the prep, is that you lay it out for the week, and I kind of say I'm going to have chicken on Monday, pizza on Tuesday, sirloin on Wednesday, and I've got all of that stuff in Ziploc bags, And as far as I don't eat anything my breakfast is at noon. So the intermittent fasting thing is very critical. Elijah Muhammad was right on that 1 meal a day thing. You've got all of these, what they call biohackers. They talk about they're hacking your digestive system, and the Silicon Valley people fast extended fast. I'm not really, because the science is not ready for that yet. They haven't come out with what they found. These guys are fasting 20, 30, 40 days, and they're saying their mental acuity is off the charts. But I don't eat until noon, and so I shut it down at 8. So between 8 and noon, that's 16 hours. I've got a window from noon till 8 p.m. that I can eat. And I find myself, because the high fat, and I've switched what they call, you've tricked your system from using carbohydrate as an energy source to using fat as an energy source. And this is why extended fasting works so well, because you're living off of the fat and not the carbs. And that's why you see some of these survival shows, these people show up 20 pounds overweight, because it's feast or famine on these shows, and they know that they may have to live off of their body fat to cannibalize that. You can't do that off of carbohydrates. They burn too rapidly. It's a cheap source of fuel, whereas fat is the optimal source of fuel. So that 1 meal, I'm pretty much at 1 meal a day. I can eat 2 meals a day, but it's easy to prep for when you're not on the standard American diet. And it's ironic that that acronym is SAD, which recommends 3 meals a day and 3 snacks after or in between each meal. You're constantly impacting your insulin and becoming insulin resistant. And anything that you eat will have a glycemic impact. Even if you eat cauliflower, your insulin is going to raise to some degree. But when you're eating sugars and glucose, it raises and stays high. So when you're only going to eat 1 meal or 2 meals a day, it's not difficult meal prepping for that. But for the busy person, and I found in the age of COVID, I can do it. I'm not leaving the house, but in a pinch, Wendy's and Burger King do offer a keto meal. You can get it. You get it in a little plastic. They put the cheese. Make it however you want. They even put avocado on it for you. So in a pinch, you can get away with that. There's the other thing about smoothies. I'm not really a smoothie guy, but I know people are into juicing. So if
into that, yeah.
Smoothies, go with the berries. Don't go with the pineapple, the apples, the oranges, the watermelon. My mantra is this: sugar is sugar is sugar. And so people like to use the phrase, but it's naturally occurring sugar. God made sugar. No, these are GMOs. I'm much older than the whole panel. So probably combined. I don't know. But I can tell you, when I was a young man, oranges were very bitter, almost as bitter as a lemon. The only orange you could get was a sun-kissed navel orange, and that was super sweet. That was super prized, and they were the most expensive oranges you could purchase on the market. Nowadays, every orange is super sweet because they've been engineered by the farmers and the fruit growers to know that if your fruit is super sweet, that sugar is highly addictive, and that people will buy these fruits and they would buy these watermelons. And I saw there's Netflix actually has an episode of fasting on their Unwell series. They're doing, I think it's an 8-part series called Unwell. The third or the fourth segment is on fasting. They really give it a bum steer because they go into, and a lot of people say, well, how can you fast like that? Do any of you know the record for fasting? It's 382 days.
Oh, wow.
On a water fast. And the person who did it, he started out at 600 pounds. He did it under the care of his doctors. They monitored him, weighed him, and so on and so forth. So after about 382 days, or maybe 300 and some odd days, he hit 150 pounds. And that was his natural weight. He continued to fast, and it wasn't anything coming off. So he satiated. He ended his fast. But the extended fasting, I don't really recommend that because there's not a lot of scientific data. I recommend 48, 72 hour, and that's an extended fast. And I live my life by a intermittent fast daily. I'm only eating 1 to 2 meals a day. On a good day, 1 meal. And so, ergo, if I know in the morning I'm only going to have one thing, I can prep for that. I can have that in the fridge, sitting in a bag, marinating, ready to go. Other things that I've used for tools for cooking is air frying. I love my air fryer. It's really all that. But knowing that fat is good for you, as long as you're eating saturated fats and not polyunsaturated fats or seed oils, like cottonseed and sunflower seed oils, these are very bad for you. But if you're eating extra virgin olive oil, if you're eating, or if you're cooking with that, if you're cooking with coconut oil, or if you're cooking with ghee, a lot of our Pakistani Southeast Asian friends, they cook with ghee, which is just clarified butter. So my first meal of the day will be fatty halal zabiha beef bacon and 2 fried eggs and a bowl of guacamole. And if I'm going to eat another meal 4 or 5 hours later, it's going to be air fried chicken with the skin. And so we study this. I've been studying this, and all of the stuff that we were told were bad for us is actually, in fact, better for us. And so the skin is good. Cooking in saturated fat is good because you want to have that fat content. That's your source of energy, And so I found that, going back to your question on meal prep, it to be easy because we're not. And I've just turned a friend on, and he said one of the things, he was a vegan, but he was looking at the science of keto and low carb, and he thought he might have found something in it that could be a benefit for him. And he said, and he's about 6 feet even, probably 175 pounds, so he's in fairly decent shape. But he says the one thing that he notices, he's no longer hungry, and that's one of the things that I noticed as well, is the lack of hunger. And I'm trail running now. I don't know if you all are familiar with trail running. That's running up and down these rocky mountain paths, and I notice if I don't have my guacamole the night before, I'm kind of dragging, but I do that on a fast. I fasted this Ramadan, was the first time I fasted in 7 years because my diabetes wouldn't allow me, or so I thought, to fast. And so I'm able to do Herculean stuff I'll be 60 next month. Next year. And so I'm running 20 miles a week, swimming 40 laps every other day in the pool, weightlifting, so on and so. And so I'm enjoying this life. And I'm watching all of these old white dudes on the trail, 80, 90 years old. They got their little hiking sticks, but they're getting it in. And I'm saying, subhanAllah, that's where I want to be. When I'm 80, 90 years old. I want to be racing Bilal and Mujahid up the hill, challenging.
You probably got us beat now, man. The way I saw your shirt ripping through, man. You know what I mean? You are the coach, man. You the coach, man. So real quick, as because I'm a snacker, right? So that's one of my downfalls. I snack more than I eat, and so a way to transition. I thought, right? Okay. Well, one thing I thought the transition would be is fruit, but you're saying even some of the fruits,
yeah, fruits are high in fructose, which is the fruit form, and you've heard the form, high fructose corn syrup. It goes straight to your liver, chef. And so that's what you really want to avoid. Like I said, I was watching this woman. She completed a 28-day fast on this Unwell series, and she broke her fast with watermelon and starches. And I'm like, wow, you just took a whole L. You just set yourself back. So no, you do want to avoid, but the fruits that are allowable on this low carb diet because they're low in sugar and have a very low glycemic impact are the berries. Okay. Blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. And you don't have to give up your sweetness altogether. There are monk fruit and stevia. A lot of people complain that the stevia has a bitter aftertaste, almost like aspartame products do. And it does. I don't prefer stevia, but monk fruit is a sweetener that I really enjoy if I want to use a sweetener. There's a sister, Hamida, who's called Mama's Sugar. It's on Facebook. She has patented her own low glycemic, low carb sugar. And she makes bean pies, low carb bean pies, the whole nine. She's from New York, and so I'm giving her a shout out. Just look up Mama's Sugar. She owns her own bakery in Atlanta, and she ships as well. So there are alternatives. It's not such a stark Viking existence of just a big old bone of meat and some avocado. Although in terms of your snacking, so Mujahid, if you want to make a snack, do a blueberry smoothie with almond milk, and you may want to add some kale or something like that. But you can sweeten it up with monk fruit, And they come out with this line of keto ice cream. I love it. I got to cut back. I'm doing a pint a day, but Rebel ice cream, and they've got sea salt caramel, triple fudge, peanut butter fudge. My favorite is the cherry chocolate and then the mint chocolate. But I've tried other keto ice creams, and they taste frankly like chalk. But this Rebel brand, I find it's very much like ice cream. So you don't have to give up all of your snacks, but you do want to at least adhere to the when you eat rule.
Okay.
Because you want to have that 12 to 8. Now, some of the better snacks, macadamia nuts, walnuts, pecans, almonds, pistachios. The apex are the walnuts and the macadamia nuts. That's a great source of pure fat. And so, but even in moderation with that, if you got a snack, because it's a marathon, it's not a run. If you do this diet, my average weight loss was about 7 pounds per month. I started out at 230, my goal weight. I said, just 190, I'll be good. When I hit 190, I said, 180, I'll be good. And it just kept coming off. I hit my goal. I hit 170, I think in June, and I started in October. So that's when, my daughter said, "You look like Al Sharpton, like a lollipop." So I had to start doing resistance training, to get some type of bulk back on, at least some, to look firm, And so that's when I started the resistance training aspect of it. But you can try the various snacks, and like I said, it's not a marathon. Don't try to go. I experimented with keto starting in August, and played and lost like 5 pounds, and played around with it. And then when my numbers kept going back up, I said, you know what, I need to take this seriously. So I marked the date, October 19th. I went to see the doctor January 5th, and that's when he pronounced me as being a diabetic in remission. You know, and my A1C was 6. It's since dropped to 5. You know, and my daily numbers are between 90 and 110, which is acceptable. You know, and I can live with that. You know, I would love to see a 90 every day, but that should be your fasting. And I recommend to everybody that, you know, you can get one of these glucose meters from CVS or Rite Aid. They're like $20. Just check and the instructions are fairly simple. Just check your. I still check my glucose like 5 times a day because I'm trying to scientifically figure out when I eat something, it does go up. But when I wake up, my fasting glucose is about 90. After I eat, is about 120 to 140. But then it'll go back down. And so if I'm eating something that I shouldn't be eating, then it won't go down as rapidly as it should. And so that's when I start really saying, well, maybe I need to do 1 meal a day. And also I try to carve out at least 1 weekend in the month where I'm going to do an extended fast. Some people do 72 hours. Didn't sit well with me. I got through it, but it was quite a heck of a challenge. And I'm in groups on Facebook, alternative fasting, and so where these people are fasting 20, 30 days, but they don't have a goal. And then they start reporting, well, I don't even like food anymore. Well, now you've developed into an eating disorder. You know? And so the Prophet Peace be upon him said that, you know, your belly should be full 1/3 water, 1/3 food, and then 1/3 air. So gluttony is not something that a Muslim should even be partaking in. And so when you see that we're eating 1 or 2 meals a day, we're fulfilling the sunnah by not being full or not eating all the time. But what we eat can satiate the hunger, and that's the fat. And the apex fat for me and for a lot of people is avocado. And I was not an avocado fan. Tasteless, odorless. But, you know, our Mexican brothers and sisters figure out how to spice that thing up. They put the chili in there and this, that, and the other. And it tastes great when it's flavored, you know. But I was at I was on the road last week. Bilal probably saw it. I was in a pinch. And there was a place called Gourmet Burgers. I'm in Vineland, New Jersey. So they're dining outdoors. And I asked them, you know, do they have a low carb option? And man, did they ever? You know, they lettuce wrap because that keeps all the condiments inside the burger. And then they wrap it in aluminum. I was in heaven. And then they had endless salads. So I got the Caesar salad and they put the avocados in it. Perfect. You know, by the time I got home, I wasn't hungry. You know, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not hungry. And so the fat is critical to stave off any of your hunger pains, because a lot of people think, well, if you're going to go down to this intermittent fasting lifestyle and you're going to only eat 1 to 2 meals, you're going to be constantly hungry. And if you're doing low carb properly, you're not going to be hungry all the time. Matter of fact, you got to consciously remind yourself, because you do have to take that protein and fat in.
Right.
Excellent.
No, I think also touch upon. I think we need to touch upon this a little bit too. The effects of the social economic in our communities, and a lot of our communities where people don't have access to locally grown foods. people don't have access to these Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. I'll just toss them out. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. They don't have access to none of these things. Food deserts, food injustice, the major problem in the African American communities. And we were just at the Lawton Farmers Market here in New York, in Queens, which they just opened up, here in New York, and it's a start in the right direction. And we need more of those, of those type of things, because what I've noticing in my so far travels is again, where there's the wealth, there is the good food. Where's the wealth? But when there is poverty, there's bad food, crime.
Yeah.
Poverty economically, etc.
So, Wendy's in suburbia. They won't let you. Yeah, I'm serious. You get a Zoe's Kitchen or one of these health food outlets. They're in suburbia. But Burger King and Wendy's and stuff like that, no, you cannot get there. In Philadelphia, we're blessed. We have Jeffrey Brown, who recognized that there was a market in the African American community. And he opened up several brown ShopRite in the hood. I mean, in the hood. And you found out that, Black people are going to buy groceries, and so there was no need for a food desert. He took it one step further, and every ShopRite in Philadelphia has a halal meat section, And so we don't. I feel you, Bilal.
No, I'm just asking. I want to ask your opinion. For those who are, living in these type of neighborhoods and these type of conditions, the Black promise to also grow your own food.
Right.
That's an option. Grow your own food. But in general, what would you say from your journey would be some sound advice for those living in the in a hood?
Right.
Hoods, man.
But to validate what you're saying, there's a brother from Detroit who did a photo series documentary over the course of 15, 20 years, where he saw the emergence of these food deserts in Detroit on the bus stops. And so, he started taking pictures and showing the stores, the supermarkets over the course of 10, 15, 20 years closing. And he took pictures of people on the bus stop. And guess what happened to the people? They got fatter and fatter and fatter. Obesity began to, and so what I would say, because even in Philadelphia, they've got this sugar tax. The sugar tax impacts, in effect, Black poor people, but Black and poor people, they're claiming that the sugar tax is going to fund pre-K and kindergarten, but it's on the backs of people who drink these sugary drinks. And folks who live in Philadelphia can drive over across the border, Cheltenham, cross Broad Street, and avoid the sugar tax. And so I would say for folk who have these food deserts, one of the things that I know we did at United Muslim Mesh did and Universal Companies is they started community gardens. And community gardens is one resource where the food desert, especially for vegetables and fruits and things of that nature that are good for us, can be reproduced, in a community and then the other thing is putting pressure on your franchisees to say, look, if you bring supermarkets into our neighborhoods, we will support those. So in Philadelphia, I think Brown led the charge, but now there's Super Fresh. There are other supermarkets that say, wait a minute, the threat of they don't buy, they're going to shoplift. There's all kinds of negative economic imagery associated with having a supermarket in a Black neighborhood was all false. And so those are the things that you can do is get, AOC on the ball. Say, yo, you kick Amazon out of New York, but can you bring supermarkets here? That will cater to Black folk. But community gardens are definitely one. Like I said, I'm a big avocado fan. But also I keep a bag of pistachios, macadamia nuts, and those are expensive. Those nuts are really, really expensive. I think a 2-pound bag of pistachios may be $20, And so who's giving that to their kids when that's the other downside of high carb eating? It's so cheap. A big supersized box of cornflakes, can feed a whole family, but at the same time, all of the associated maladies with a high carbohydrate diet is not just diabetes, but obesity, asthma, eczema, ADD. Like I said, Alzheimer's may be connected to a high carbohydrate diet. Women who have never experienced a menses or a regular menses in their entire life, when going on a high fat, low carb diet, all of a sudden their menses regulated. So there are a lot of things that are associated with wheats and with glutens and so on and so forth. So they say, well, African people have been eating carb. Asians eat a lot of rice, but again, when you eat, how much you eat. That's
another good point. Good point. Yeah.
Blue zones. Blue zones are places where people typically live to be between 80 and 100, maybe more years old. The Inuit Indians, which is a North Alaskan tribe of Indians, and all they survive off of was whale meat and whale blubber. You're not growing any vegetables in North Alaska. Maybe some seaweed. But other than that, it's whale meat and whale blubber. They'll kill one big blue whale and they'll live, the whole tribe will live off of that. These people typically, with no doctors, live to be 80, 100 plus years old off of whale meat and blubber. The first incident of diabetes was recorded in an Inuit Indian in 1972 when he moved to the mainland and got supersized. Other than that, there's scientific evidence that shows that these low carb diets, we didn't start the high carb sugar diet until colonialization. So you could pack all of that flour, all of that sugar, and all of those carbs on a ship, and you could sail for months at a time. And that's when the high carb sugar thing kicks in. But you don't see it in our people until we adopt the SAD, the Standard American Diet, which is a high carbohydrate diet, which then in 1970, when they came out with it, and it was Nabisco, Kellogg's Corn Flakes, Nestle's, all of these companies that are pushing this cheap, microwavable, easy to make food that costs them pennies on a dollar, and then making trillions off of it. They start, and then, as you said, the food deserts kick in, and so now you're eating microwave food, Roman noodles, Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Kids are eating Fruit Loops, and so on and so forth. And several of the kids are developing diabetes at an early age. Gestational diabetes for pregnant women because they're eating all of this. These high carb, you got to have a burger, you got to have a bun. You got to have a hot dog, you got to have a bun. And so this stuff is really wreaking havoc upon our communities, that we see the trend starting in 1970 when they came out with the food chart, and it just progressing. And so a lot of the pundits would say, oh, well, smoking and alcoholism increased in those years as well. But studies have shown that people who didn't smoke and who didn't drink alcohol still developed all of these maladies associated with high carbohydrate diets. And now there's too much money at stake now to just pull the plug on it. And so what low carb community is saying, at least offer this on the FDA chart as an alternative. I was in a charter school just last month, and I see them, the food chart, and at the bottom is the bread basket, the wheats, the glutens, the this, the that, so on and so forth. And so when you tell people to give up pasta, spaghetti, wheat, they clutch the pearls, bruh, because
yes, absolutely.
It's unfathomable. Cornbread, you got to give up cornbread. Oh, that's not going to go down. Not going to happen, And so, Sister Marsha, I don't know how that almond flour cornbread tastes, but
Oh no, it was pancakes. It was pancakes. I was like, oh no, I messed up. I was like, I think I didn't follow the instructions right. This don't taste like no pancake.
and then they got the low carb keto syrup, which is water with monk fruit in it, and it's dyed brown, But I mean, these guys in the labs, they can work out miracles if there's money associated with it. When the vegan thing came along, it grew in such popularity so rapidly. Now you can't go into a supermarket without vegan options,
Right.
And they've got this thing called seitan, which resembles meat, and they can make it look like lobster, smell like
all
lobster.
types of flavors. Yes.
They can infuse
What's that? Make it smell like lobster. So is it lobster?
No, it's like it almost puts you in the mind of like a tofu. Similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll find that there are a lot of like I know in downtown Philly there are vegan Asian restaurants, and so they've got pork and lobster and all that's on the menu, but it's all seitan.
Right.
So you can get your pork fried rice. It's not really pork fried rice, and then out on it. I just saw a Muslim promoting what is these vegan pig skin things.
Oh, okay.
Pig skin things. What's that?
Well, you know how people eat pig skin in a bag?
Oh yeah, right. You eat skins. Yeah. So I didn't grow up Muslim. When I was a kid, I loved skins. That was like my favorite.
Wait, so the acts are promoting vegan pig skin now?
I think he's saying
well, he said, well, like he's saying, they're So really, it's like the well, I know the one he's referring to. He kind of froze on us, but he'll be back in a moment.
Yeah,
we'll pull him out and bring him back in. But I know it's a shared kitchen down in DC. They have that.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, cool.
There you go. Welcome back. We do got a question from the audience.
Sultana from New Jersey. He asks, do you eat cauliflower as a substitute like rice and bread?
Absolutely. I'm big on vegetables, although I don't get them as often as I like. But yes, asparagus, broccoli. So especially if I'm dining out, and they always have that as an alternative. Broccoli and cauliflower. In the vegan restaurants, they even have buffalo cauliflower. Have you all had that? It's basically fried cauliflower with buffalo sauce, buffalo wing sauce.
Oh yes, I've seen that. Yep.
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it good?
It's buffalo wing. But if that's your twist, absolutely. Bread, vegetables are your low carb choice. They're your low carb go to because you're getting vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin this, vitamin that, all of that. And so when I can't get to the vegetables, I drink this substance called green magma, and it's basically kale and arugula and so ground up into a powder. And you can pour that into a water bottle and get just as much of the vitamins that you're going to normally get from your vegetables and the low carbs. Like I said, you cannot, I don't think, ever totally eliminate carbohydrates. And that's why the diet says low carb, because even protein, even meats have carbohydrates in them.
Nice. So I want to talk a little bit about, because you brought it up, about the expense around making this lifestyle change. And I think it's important for us to touch on that too, because as you sort of promote, well, this is a better way of living, this is a better way of eating, this is a better source of finding your energy, and we want to steer our communities in a direction that's better, right? We're always living and to do and be better. I think we also have to, it's our responsibility to let people know sort of what also is associated with that better. And in this sense, expense is definitely an issue. You talked about the fact that you can get groceries much cheaper if you're buying some of these unhealthy options. And I'm a mom, right? So, I kind of will buy the more expensive things because I don't want to give my children.
Well, now, let me give you a one up on a treat for kids. I buy unsweetened chocolate almond milk, and then I put monk fruit in it, and it tastes just like Nestle's.
Okay.
And I have a 4-year-old. He loves chocolate, and so when I give him that concoction, he can't tell the difference, and he's all in.
Yeah.
Almond milk is definitely an option, especially if they come out with a low carb cereal. Definitely use almond milk for that. One of the things I also would like, and I want to get with some of our scholars, because every fast, whether it's ibadah or whether it's wellness, starts with an intent. So if I'm going to fast and I'm doing a extended fast or an intermittent fast for wellness, my intent is to do it for wellness. If I'm going to fast Siyam or Ramadan or an extra fast, a supererogatory fast, maybe Monday or Thursday. So I want to see, how can we combine the two? Because fasting, we're told, is purely and simply for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. But we know that in the Sunnah, now scientifically speaking, there is much benefit spiritually, and now we know physically that we're getting something from that fast. I forget the term. There's a term that actually that you get once you hit the 48 hour. It'll come to me that your body enters into a certain phase. And the guy that wrote the paper on
ketosis.
No, not ketosis. Ketosis is the process of it's not atrophy. I'll think of it. But there's some, and the guy that wrote the paper on it got a Nobel Prize. On extending fasting. And so what this does, like when people do extended fasting, or say you've watched the show 600 Pound Life, I watch it like I watch Shark Week. That's the one thing I always dread is being 600 pounds, but I'm morbidly drawn to it. I gotta watch Shark Week, and it's official that great white sharks don't bite black people. So every time you see that show, it's always a white person that's getting eaten by the shark. I've never seen a black dude getting eaten by the shark. But I do want to get with some of our scholars and say, look, how can we manage this lifestyle? How can I do both side by side? Can I make the niyyah to do a wellness fast and an ibadah fast? And the thing about fasting is that you're cannibalizing your fat. So people who are these 600 pounds is what they call morbidly obese. And so when they lose this weight, they don't have the excess skin. And so when you watch My 600 Pound Life, once they lose the 600 pounds and they're within the 200 pound range, the next phase of their recovery is skin surgery.
Right.
Whereas autophagy. That's right.
Yes.
Autophagy is something that kicks in. They say 48, but optimally 72 hours. And autophagy kicks something in your system. One of the benefits of autophagy is mental acuity, but also you lose this weight and your skin goes away as well. You're melting skin as well. So people who lose several hundred pounds off of extended fasting and low carb living, they don't have to get that. And autophagy, I'm not a woman. I don't have stretch marks that I can see, but they say autophagy is also a cure for stretch marks.
Okay.
So there are all types of benefits to this fasting. There's a group, Mubaraka Ibrahim. She has a group on Facebook called the 72-Hour Community Fast, where we all join in together and we fast for 72 hours and we kind of act as a support. When you're fasting and you're doing low carb to get well, to defeat diabetes or reverse diabetes, to lose a large amount of weight, I think there's a great reason to do it. But what the science also shows is when you do it in community, you have higher levels of success because you're supporting one another. So if you're married and your spouse is making fun of your keto, at least get them in line with, look, this is serious. Please don't make fun of the keto. And if you can do it as a couple, if you can do it as a family, if you can get them kids off of the Fruit Loops and the cornflakes and all that stuff and start moving them towards less sugary content, consumables, everybody will be all the better for it. I'm glad that sister said autophagy. I couldn't think of that.
I think also too, back to your point of when you were talking about the fasting that we do during the month of Ramadan, which is slaughtered, that's slaughtered. We have to do that. And the fasting that in the health, which we've been talking about, the intermittent fasting and the extended fasting,
right?
And the niyyah that we set our intentions to fast, during the month of Ramadan or Mondays and Thursdays or whatever have you. And that's also, you talk about the intending of the intentions to fast for, the intermittent and long extended fast. I think that, even in the Sunnah, I think it's even Quranic that we take care of our body. That's doing. Remember, we have to remember these bodies Allah has blessed us with. It's His. It's a vehicle. It's ours. Right. We're living in it right now, but we're like borrowing. It's like you borrow a book from a library. It's on a loan. And when that time is up, this body goes back to the earth.
Yes.
I'm saying. So while we're here physically on this earth, we are held responsible for what we do with our bodies, because even it talks about that your bodies will speak out either for you or against you. You understand what I'm saying? And if we neglect and reject our health and our wellness, I think that's a sin.
Right. Well, there's so many hidden benefits into fasting. As Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, fasting is prescribed for you, as it was prescribed for those that came before you. Perhaps you will learn taqwa. And taqwa is what we call God consciousness. It's a shield that protects us, and so on and so forth. And so, but it heightens something in you. Socrates required his students to fast because it sharpened their mental agility. And so taqwa is also mental as well as spiritual, and it is heightened as a result of denial or abstaining from food. And so, the benefits in the Sunnah, some are pronounced, some are known, some are unknown, but no one that we know of has ever been harmed, by fasting. Unless you were on medication and you shouldn't be fasting, your doctor. But there's a whole nother thing of that, why diabetics should be fasting, but they have to kind of train themselves to do so. I wouldn't stop, and I'm not a physician, so I wouldn't stop taking insulin and stop doing this and then jump into a fast. I regulate it. I talked with my doctor, but I noticed that when I was going low carb and I was intermittent fasting, my sugar would go to 60 and 70. That's dangerous. That's very low. You have low blood sugar then. And so I would have to cut back on the insulin and the metformin. Not 25 units, but 15 units. And then I would hit 90. And then it would go down as I lost more weight and as I regulated, and back to 60 and 70, to the point where when I went to see the doctor, I wasn't taking metformin or insulin at that point. And I was communicating with him, because now you got all these portals, and I'm sharing with them my blood sugars. So I wouldn't advise anyone do this without the supervision or the oversight of a physician, but again, if you can find you a physician that's low carb, diet centric. You know, there's some out there, but many aren't, because many of them, you know, like my doctor, he still wrote me a prescription for insulin and metformin. I guess he still wants to go golfing in the south of Florida. You know, I forget the name of the company. Maybe the sister can see. There was a company in Sweden that was caught paying physicians $300,000, $400,000 a year for writing at least 300 or 400 prescriptions per year for insulin. And they justified it by saying that these physicians would go to medical conventions and talk about the attributes and the benefits of the insulin. Well, an audit produced that them doctors hadn't done none of that. They just were writing these. Can you imagine getting $300,000? What the incentive? What is the incentive for you to take someone off of insulin or to prescribe a healthy diet as an alternative? There is none. There's no money in it, you know. And so most of these doctors that are in the low carb, these are doctors who have made their way. They're ready to retire. I think Dr. David Unwin was a British general practitioner. He said he never cured anyone of diabetes. And he had a patient come to him one day and said, Dr. Unwin, you say that sugar causes diabetes. And he was like, yes. He said, but why didn't you tell me bread was sugar? And it's like he was struck by that because he knew the fact. And so then he started coming out with these charts, which the FDA kind of banned, and there's a movement on. But his charts show, you know, that a banana has 8 teaspoons of sugar. Beans have this, so you can start correlating. Because the other thing that, you know, Sister Marsha was like, what's on the meal prep? I think people don't know what not to eat, and they don't know what to eat.
Exactly.
And that's where the Keto Coach comes in, because people are calling every day, texting me. And I said, look, text me. What did you have? You know, and they'd be like, well, I had some pineapples. Like, no, you can't. I want no, you can't have it. But they all.
I think too, like, I think about me, right? And so I think if I think like this, somebody else is thinking like this. And so when you talk about these lifestyle changes, I don't necessarily have a problem with making them, whether it's keto, whether it's vegetarianism, whether it's veganism. But you have to give me, you got to give me the plan, or you got to give me alternatives to the things that I crave or I gravitate to, because if I don't have those, it's out the window.
Yeah, right. It's really hard. You know, so the question is, everybody goes on these Hollywood diets. Everybody goes on these fad diets. Everybody, what's the latest diet? You know, there's even a diet called the fructopian diet that some Olympians went on and had a high degree of success. They're young people with a high metabolism. It ain't caught up to them yet, I believe. But there are plenty of diets. But the main question is it sustainable? Can I maintain? Will I lose 60 pounds this year and look up 5 years from now and have gained 80? You know, and that's the yo-yoing effect of fad diets. You know, one of the things that you don't see, everybody's watched the show The Biggest Losers. I don't know if the show is even still around, but it's miraculous when you see these people. They come in and they're morbidly obese. By the way, at 230 pounds, I was obese. I was shocked when I looked at my BMI chart, but I was obese. And so I had a friend of mine, he just told me, he says, well, I'm 6'2", I was 262, I lost 20 pounds, I'm perfect. Huh? You're 242 pounds and you're 6 feet 2. You know, your BMI is 180. Oh, that's white people. Well, you ain't that far off being white. You know what I mean? Come on, you're like 60 pounds heavier than the BMI chart. I'll give you 200. But my BMI says I should be 165. I'm 172.
Right.
You know, but I got that Al Sharpton thing going on. So I'm trying not to. But, you know, and so people, when they lose this huge amount of weight because they're on these shows where they've lost hundreds of pounds, but you've got a coach watching you. And the fallacy of calories in versus calorie out, obesity is not a calorie-related disease. It is a hormonal disease, and it is your hormones out of whack because you become insulin resistant. And one of the telltale signs of it is the belly fat.
Right.
And then for other people, it may be the hips and so on, but the belly is the first thing. Amazingly, and for some of you pot belly brothers out there, the belly was the first thing that went. That thing that went was the belly, you know, and I was amazed and happy. I can see my toes. I haven't seen my toes since I was, you know, and so that was. But when you're getting back to these Biggest Losers, people, have you ever seen a Biggest Losers reunion?
Yes.
And a lot of those people are what? Fat again.
Yep.
They're right back where they started because they don't teach them low carbohydrate dieting. They don't teach them a sustainable diet. Right. And so if I got a drill sergeant that's going to get me up at 6 a.m. and run me 2-3 miles, then yeah, you can eat. But the other thing is that your metabolism is like a furnace, and so it tamps down or tamps up to whatever you're consuming. So if you go from 2,000 calories to 1,500 calories a day, your metabolism is going to slow down,
right?
You know, and tamp down to meet you at that level. But if you're eating carbs and your body is becoming insulin resistant and it's saying, store this fat, see that as fat. And that's when you develop the insulin resistance, your glucose numbers go through the roof. And you've got this, I mean, I look at people and it's usually huge bellies, you know, and that's, if you look at my before and after, huge belly. I just justify it because it wasn't the biggest belly I ever saw. You know, somebody's got a bigger. Somebody's got a bigger.
Look at the rippage. Look at the rippage. Look at the rupture.
That's not Photoshop. That's all you Photoshop.
No filters.
That's not Photoshop. But you know, and it's sustainable. That's, you know, like I won't eat for the rest of the day.
Right.
I know tomorrow I'm going to have, and I love greasy bacon. The fat part of the bacon is the best part of the bacon. But you got to do it in, you know, you can't eat a pack of bacon. You have to,
moderation.
Right. But the whole moderation thing is the fat satiates the hunger. So you don't find yourself, you know, like I would order my sons, they're all grown. So for football, I order 2 large pies and 20 buffalo wings. Now they in their 20s. So occasionally they would stiff me. Oh man, I wound up being over at my man's house. You know how it is. Okay. What do you think happened to them pies? I didn't let a no-show let the pie go in the refrigerator. The first game, I ate a pie. Second game, I ate a pie. The 8 o'clock game, I'm eating them wings. I was never satiated on carbs. Never. You know, because I just constantly had to stoke that engine. And so now that I'm eating all of this high fat, and then people are like, what is fat? Well, fat, as we talked, are certain nuts. It's also the meat, the fat from the meat. It's also avocado, but it's also what you cook in as well. But another source of omega-3s, omega-6 is salmon. Again, another.
I love salmon.
Right.
Love salmon.
Fat
Love it.
fish, man. You know, and you get a lot of omega fat oils in that, and it's just so expensive. You know?
Right.
Unless you go on and you shopping at the market and it's the 1 day expiration, you know, and they mark down all the fish, you know, and you can take a little bit of smell, you know, you'll be okay. And,
just cook it right away.
Just cook it. Yeah, take it home and cook that bad boy. No.
Excellent.
I'm always hanging out in that fish section at the Acme, waiting for them to mark down. You know? But yeah, that is cheap.
Well, Kasem, how can people contact the Keto Coach? How can they reach you?
I'm on Facebook as Kasem, but I'm getting ready to launch Kasem the Keto Coach Facebook page, website, all of that. I can give you my numbers, 215-778-7261. Don't call me, text me, and just say, look, I saw your program. I saw you on the program. You know, I want to send you, and people send me pictures of their plate. Or they ask me, what should I be eating? What is on the grocery list? You know, that sort of thing. What I often find is that people go, when they first jump into it, they go crazy on the vegetables. And I think that may be, that may set you back.
Is that a bad thing to go in on vegetables?
Well, you want to make sure that you're getting your protein and your fat. Because if you're just eating all vegetables, you're going to steer off course with hunger. So avocado salad with some shrimp in it, that's perfect. You know.
Okay.
But you definitely want to make sure that you get your protein, and you definitely want to make sure that you get your fat. And so for the pescatarians, you know, up your ante up on that salmon. For the non-red meat eaters, eat that skin on that chicken. You know, you can fry it in almond flour and use olive oil as your substrate, as your cooking. Because not so much you can throw a piece of chicken in the air fryer and that thing will come out pretty good. No seasoning at all.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
But putting that olive oil on it adds the fat content to the meal, and that kind of keeps your motor running, so to speak.
Can we get your number? The number again, I'll put on the screen for people. Text only the Keto Coach.
Yeah, 215-778-7261. And, just send me a picture. Text me a picture of your meal. Oh, the other thing is, you're going to be tempted to weigh yourself every day. And when you go keto, the first, I think this is traditionally or historically true or accurate. Everybody loses 7 pounds the first week. And they're like, oh, this is going to be so easy. And what happens is the second week, you gain 3 back. You gain 4 back. And then you're like, oh, man, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? It's a marathon. What you want to do, especially as the energy kicks in, and I've seen this typically, people walking 1 mile. A month into keto, they're walking 3-4 miles a day, And so if you're doing aerobic, you're going to lose weight. But if you get into resistance training, you're going to add muscle. So you may be losing fat and replacing it with muscle, which weighs more. The best thing to do if you want to become obsessed about body image or proportion, measure yourself. I went from a 44 waist to a 32 waist. And so you can, that's my Omega Psi 5 pledging day. And then I was a freshman in college, And so measuring yourself, I got this skinny neck. I need to do some head weights or something. But you do. I went from a 48 to a 38 in a suit. And so now I got all these clothes I got to give away. But measuring yourself is probably, because when I started going resistance training and swimming a lot, that's when I noticed the scale started slowing. I would recommend that you probably weigh yourself once every other week, because what happens in between, if you're dedicated to the low carb life, you're going to lose weight, no doubt. But the needle may not move as hard as you are moving. And so that can be discouraging to some folk. That I started out like gangbusters, lost 7 pounds, and now I'm only losing 1 to 2 pounds per week. When in fact, a normal average is between 5 and 7 pounds per month anyway. If you're losing weight that fast, the likelihood or the probability is it'll come back as fast. Like I'm in these groups where people fast 35, 40 days just to lose weight. And they do lose a tremendous amount of weight. But once they break the fast, they return
right back. You get it
back to their poor eating habits. And so you got to maintain some balance. And that's why I would recommend intermittent fasting as opposed to extended fasting, unless you're going to have some type of serious surgery, or if your glucose level is so high, you got to do something to get down. But at that point, you should be under the care of a physician if your glucose is 300 and 400 daily. And there are a lot of people who are out there ignoring their numbers. When my thing hit 300-400 daily, I didn't. Who wants to look at that? I stopped reading my numbers, and I knew I got sugar foot, ulcers on my feet, that kind of stuff. Having, constantly urinating. All of the symptoms of diabetes or neuropathy is setting in. My vision became blurred. It attacks you on every point. When it goes after your organs, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, you're in pretty bad shape, at that point. But you're not hopeless. You can turn it around. But I didn't want to look at my numbers when I knew they were 300-400, and I just felt so hopeless. And I lost friends. I lost friends to the disease, which was, and I've seen friends, they get amputations. They start out with the toes, then the foot, then the leg. And, at some point they'll say, a friend of mine said, you know what? Hey, I'm going. How do old folks say in the church? I'm going up a yonder. I'm gone. I don't cut another thing off on me because the quality of life, it ain't worth it no how.
Right.
And I wish I could go back in time. I know one old head, he walked around with a nail in his foot for a week and gangrene set in.
Wow.
Because he had neuropathy in his foot and he couldn't feel it. I guess that was a blessing when he stepped on it. But it wasn't after a week of having it in there, right. And you almost had to lose your foot because neuropathy had set in on your foot. So I believe that this quest, and I see, a lot of white folks going into low carb living. They call it low carb living. They don't even refer to it as keto, and they are saving their entire families of diabetics, and so. Diabetes is not a genetic disease. It runs in the family because you all ate the same diet.
Right.
That's why. Cancer is not so much genetic as much as hormonal. You all live the same lifestyle and expose yourself to the same carcinogens that, that everybody had in the family. So if everybody in the family is diabetic, everybody was sitting around eating them Fruit Loops, and them donuts, what's them Tasty Cream, Krispy Kreme, woo. Look, listen, man, I used to go to Wawa every morning, and that's probably a local, that's a local convenience. I don't know where you guys are, but Wawa, you can get everything sweet and good to drink and eat there. And I would get my coffee, my tall glass of coffee with sugar and my chocolate eclair. And I would go sit in the car. I'm old head, turn on Steve Harvey and eat my junk. And I'm having my fix. And if I was really enjoying it, I would go back and get another coffee and another eclair. And I'm looking around, all these people are sitting in their cars it's a veritable sugar crack hit house. You can't get 2 blocks. You know, I couldn't get. I had, you know, my intent was to get the coffee and the donuts and go to the office, but I was like, yo, I gotta have this now. And I would sit there and eat that chocolate eclair and wash it down with that coffee and be, you know, the euphoria.
Right.
And there's certain, what do they call that? It triggers in the brain. I forget the euphoria that you experience from the sugar rush is the same euphoria that cocaine addicts experience, heroin addicts experience, that they get from that rush of introducing that drug, endorphins. You get an endorphin rush. And that's the same chemical rush that addicts who are addicted to a controlled substance get. And I know heroin will jack you up and you can kill yourself and you can overdose on cocaine, but nothing has killed as many people, black people, poor people, as diabetes, and has, I think now they say the statistics, it might be 40% people are either diabetic or pre-diabetic in the US. And that's got everything to do with the food charts and what we're told we should be eating when we shouldn't be eating any of that stuff at all.
Excellent. So that's a good segue to finish out. Did you give the quote from the sister? Oh yeah, we got to get an article from Brother Qasim. This is the Sister Sultana, the editor of the one of the co-editors of the Muslim Journal. So they're requesting your story, Brother Qasim.
Is that Sultana Waringa?
Yeah.
Sultana Ali.
Wakefield,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, out of Jersey. Beloved wants to get. Can we get an exclusive write up from the Keto Coach?
Yeah,
the Keto Coach.
I would love to.
Good.
Yeah, the new How to Eat to Leave remix. You know what I mean? Halal style, 21st century.
You have to give some credit to Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah, no doubt.
What? These dietitians aren't. I mean, I think one dude's got a book called How to Eat to Live or One Meal a Day. You know, and they don't know that this stuff was this book was out. You know, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Right. And that in the Nation of Islam, they were taught 1 meal a day, you know, and don't eat anything white. It was basically steering people towards a low carb diet. Definitely don't eat bleached white, you know, and that's the, you know, even Dr. Unwin's chart would show that I think in white bread, it might be equal to 10 teaspoons of sugar. And wheat bread might be 7 or 8. You know. And so in the Nation of Islam, they've been on point with this for quite some time. And I just wish that, you know, well, maybe if you lived in an all-white environment, you grew up and you never heard of Elijah Muhammad, I'll give you credit for not, you know, but I do think that it's kind of remiss that no one is giving him credit for his.
That's what we're about. That's what we're here to tell that narrative, to reclaim our story, reclaim our heritage, and put out that narrative. And we're gonna need the new freedom. The new freedom diet was starting at the Keto Coach, man. The new freedom diet. You know, because
the monthly check-in. The monthly check-in.
Absolutely. That's what I was thinking about earlier. We gotta definitely have you back on, and maybe on a consistent basis. I'm not sure how consistent, but just to even give people ideas for what they can eat to make the transition. Because I feel like that's sort of a big barrier for a lot of people. If you give them substitutions, then they're good. But when they don't know what to eat, you can have that.
Yeah, right. When you don't know what to eat or what not to eat, you know, like a lot of people consume, you know, juice fast is very popular, you know, and you're juicing with kiwi, pineapple, and all these fructose-laden juices, and you're really jacking yourself up, you know, juicing, but you're not eating a lot. You're juicing, so people do lose some weight, you know, and you don't fall prey to the water weight loss, because any diet you're going to lose and they'll juice for a week. And you lose 7 pounds in that week, and it comes back rapidly, And so I'm not an advocate for juice fast, but although I am an advocate for juicing, but the proper juices. And so you want to put blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, but then you want to put I use powdered collagen. Actually, they make a halal version of collagen as well. I put that in there. Celery, kale, all the good things, and a little monk fruit to sweeten it up. The almond juice, the almond milk. I use almond milk quite a lot, and that's a good replacement. I'm not missing anything, And then I haven't tried the Rebel ice cream in the smoothie, but I just gave myself an idea. That Sister Marsha, that cherry chocolate chip. Ooh. And imagine eating a pint of ice cream with no guilt. Subhanallah. So if you can get to your supermarket, tell me Keto Coach told you, get that Rebel ice cream. They got triple chocolate, sea salt caramel, mint chocolate. I'm all. I got a freezer. I can open my freezer. I got a freezer full of it. But I only eat it every other day, so I'm fasting off of my keto ice cream a night. Mashallah, I'm so sad.
Mashallah. Now we definitely appreciate you coming on, sharing the wisdom, sharing the insights. As we just said, in joking fashion, but in sincerity, we would like to bring you back on again.
Alhamdulillah.
And definitely want to get your story to the Journal, Muslim Journal, one of the pioneers and Muslim media.
I'm going to read my Eat to Live book now.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's the remix. Any closing remarks you'd like to leave us with?
Well, like I said when I think that this is a way of living that can really impact and save the geriatric community. I'll be 60 next year, and I think that those of us who are 50 and 60 years old who are fighting and battling and living with diabetes and other maladies associated with this, with just poor eating, I think we can help them first, and then we can help our children by detoxing from sugar. Getting them off the Fruit Loops, getting them off the Cinnamon Life, and Mikey can eat it, he eats anything. We shouldn't be wanting to eat anything. And so once we get, and really the movement is actually towards whole food. I don't eat anything pretty much that I don't make, that I don't cook, but like I said, in a pinch, a lot of Burger Kings and Wendy's are you can get a low carb burger. You pull up to the drive-thru and say, "Give me a low-carb burger. Take the ketchup off. Give me the mayo." And they'll hook it up. And I'm gonna tell you, I might supersize that and get a couple of them.
Excellent. So again, he gave us his phone number for you all to check out. Text only. Don't be bugging the brother. He's here to help you all out. Text a picture. Get your advice from him. This is the Keto Coach, aka Qasim Rashad, 215-778-7261. You also can check him out on Facebook, Qasim Rashad, until he set up his page. Keep a watch on his journey. Again, we thank you for coming on our platform, New Freedom Exchange, where we're all about social dignity, community empowerment, community development empowerment, and health is definitely a foundation for that if we want to be successful. So we thank you again, and we appreciate you. Any closing remarks, co-host? I got a song for y'all. All we can say is mashallah. I'm not going to tell you who the artist is, but I got a song coming up whenever y'all ready.
Okay. I'm excited for the song. But I just want to say that to our listeners, to the community, let's do better by ourselves. I think that the premise of our show is that we bring on guests and we talk about subjects that help to elevate us as people. And so today, that elevation was around choosing food in a healthier way, in a healthier manner. You looking at food as medicine, right? Not looking to be so dependent on medicine, but to make those lifestyle changes that put us in a better position. So I encourage you all to just consider where you are and take some baby steps towards where you need to be so that we all can be in a better position to make a greater impact in the world.
Excellent. Bilal.
Excellent. And I say that, what we eat and what we consume is what we're going to get out. So our thoughts, our energy level, if we are eating food and consuming food that's sluggish, that's making us sluggish, we're going to be sluggish in our thought process, sluggish in our actions. We're going to think toxic thoughts, negative thoughts. So trying to eat healthy and making that attempt, making a concerted effort, concerted intention to eat healthy as much as we can in this given environment, given the circumstances that we live in, is a step in the right direction. So as we thank again, Rashad, the Keto Coach, for joining us this evening for this conversation. It was great.
Excellent. To that caveat, when we talked about how to eat to live, one of the insights that Elijah Muhammad's son gave us is that while we were accustomed to 3 meals a day, it's similar to transitioning from the Trinity into Tawheed, right? And so the 1 meal a day is a higher level as what we just discussed today. So we don't want to take none of these things for granted. We appreciate you all for tuning in. We did a little overtime. We definitely had that energy. So you can see it live in effect what it's about. It's no flim flam, as we say. It's the real deal. You know what I mean? So we want to close out. This is Brother Khalid Sadiq's song called Mashallah, which means what Allah willed. Also featuring Qasim Gray and Muhammad Yahya. Until next time, New Freedom Exchange, we out.
Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Mashallah, Habibi. You gotta get that one, mashallah, one time. Yeah. When you see me, say mashallah. Look at my ice, look at my life. Price went up, say mashallah. Look at my car, look at my yard. Thanks to Allah, say mashallah. Look at my health, look at my wealth. Man's doing well, say mashallah. Look at the gang, look at my fam. Check my account, say mashallah. Look at the ice, look at my life. Price went up, say mashallah. Look at my car, look at my yard. Thanks to Allah, say mashallah. Look at my health, look at my wealth. Man's doing well, say mashallah. Look at the gang, look at my fam. Check my account, say mashallah. Say mashallah when you see me. Can't know their haters pre me. 2 prayers when I step out the yard, man. I need no wish, no genie. Can't no say man them envy, and I know a couple gal them too. So when they ask who's living out blessed, like boy my way, my G, better tell them. Pray my salat in the morning. Check my phone, that's wifey calling. Tell a baby girl chill, let me stack these meals. Give me 2 or 3 years, man's balling. Certain man are asking how. Them money ain't got no faith. Cover just last year, I was pushing out rental. What's next year when I'm whipping that brief? Look at my ice, look at my life. Price went up, say mashallah. Look at my car, look at my yard. Thanks to Allah, say mashallah. Look at my health, look at my wealth. Man's doing well, say mashallah. Look at the gang, look at my fam. Check my account, say mashallah. Look at the ice, look at my life. Price went up, say mashallah. Look at my car, look at my yard. Thanks to Allah, say mashallah. Look at my health, look at my wealth. Man's doing well, say mashallah. Look at the gang, look at my fam. Check my account, say mashallah.
So with her, man, I hating on QG. Cause the curls on my beard look coolie. From a young and always been unruly. Pull the track back, spin it like a sushi. Say mashallah when I roll through. Cause the gang them lit, I done told you. So don't phone my phone, I won't phone you. You don't know me, I don't know you. Came in with a new style, new flow. Bars out of the earth like Pluto. Plans beat IG like a sumo. Been kicking it with bros like judo. Same crew, same act, same fam. Same clique, same mob, same clan. And most of you guys are hating, but wanna be part of the gang.
When you see me, say mashallah. Look at my ice, look at my life. Price went up, say mashallah. Look at my car, look at my yard. Thanks to Allah, say mashallah. Look at my health, look at my wealth. Man's doing well, say mashallah. Look at the gang, look at my fam. Check my account, say mashallah. Look at the ice, look at my life. Price went up, say mashallah. Look at my car, look at my yard. Thanks to Allah, say mashallah. Look at my health, look at my wealth. Man's doing well, say mashallah. Look at the gang, look at my fam. Check my account, say mashallah.
Look at my team, mashallah. Baraka boys in the facade. We love the Rasulullah, represent Allah. I jump on the game, so I'm raising the bar. Salawat to my breath. Arabian noodle my neck. By Nyas I rep. I'm dropping that zig, still getting them checks. MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah for Mustafa, Habibullah. The one I honor when I write these bars. The one I follow when I make salah. I don't worship idol stars, idolize your idols. Nah, praise my Lord, to him I ask. Stay grateful for the things I have.
Yeah. Look at my eyes, look at my life. Price went up, say MashaAllah. Look at my car, look at my yard. Thanks to Allah, say MashaAllah. Look at my health, look at my wealth. Man's doing well, say MashaAllah. Look at the gang, look at my fam. Check my account, say MashaAllah. Look at the ice, look at my life. Price went up, say MashaAllah. Look at my car, look at my yard. Thanks to Allah, say MashaAllah. Look at my health, look at my wealth. Man's doing well, say MashaAllah. Look at the gang, look at my fam. Check my account, say MashaAllah.